Rob, do you have any update on Edwin?
No update on Edwin right now. Still getting evaluated again, and hopefully have something soon.
How about Stian and Tyler? I saw that they were training today. What role, if any, will they have in this week's games?
Yeah, we need to. I mean, today went well for them. I assume. I won't speak on Stian, Wolfie for sure. Let's see. Hopefully, we can get them involved in some way on one of these two games at least.
Just kind of, you've reached the halfway point of the season. Reflecting on this first half, what has been kind of the good? What's been the bad? What do you feel you need to work on?
In reality, that's what I talked about last week. Was that the past of when the announcement of the last changeover happened, I kind of put that out. We obviously did our evaluation, and now we've moved forward. So I'm not really going to speak on that as much anymore. It's about how we can progress and get better, and of the ideas of what we talked about fixing from there. So on that sense, it's been game one of Houston, and then we've talked about being in the present. So we kind of had that, and now we're going to keep pushing forward on how we can continue to get better. With obviously the outcome is the one we want. We have to keep trying to achieve results. So.
Last time out against DC, Christian Benteke got a hat trick. What's the plan to neutralize him this time?
Tell him not to play. No, I mean, look, he's a fantastic player. They play to his strengths. We're going to come up with a specific game plan to their team, because you can't game plan for one person. I think even like you look at Miami's got multiple fantastic players, but if you game plan for one person, somebody else hurts you. And I think like you can't disrespect an opponent like that and just say it's just about one player. So we'll look at the game as a whole and how we can be really specific in this game and be present in that moment and see what we can come up with to get the best result we can.
Going back and watching the Houston game, how did you feel about the team's ability to reorganize defensively?
Mixed. I mean, I think that after watching it back and even in the moment, like I still have this disappointment feeling. Mm-hmm. But I also think that in fairness to the game and to what Houston presented us, like the result is fair. And I look at it in that way. So the reorganization of what you're talking about, I think there was some good moments and some moments that weren't great. And I think it's evaluate what we can get better at in the short period of time. Mm-hmm. There was some positives in that.
I want to ask about some of the tactical changes you've been trying to implement. What is the actual process of messaging and communicating those tactical changes? Is it just getting guys in a room and saying, here's what we're going to shift? Is it getting on the field? How's it work?
It's a combination of everything. I think you've got to do stuff on the field, of course. Right. So even off the first training sessions and everybody around the world will do something. You'll watch probably Canada do something similar to another team. I think that when you look at all these different coaches, they just put their own twist on it, one twist on a rule or the dimensions of something. So everybody will do similar things, but in their own way. So I think for us, it's been on the field, it's been in the video room, it's been passing little messages across, and I think that there's nothing, with all due respect, there's nothing too complex about some things because these guys they're pros and they've been around this game long enough that it's not like I'm throwing something at them that they've never seen before. Now it's hopefully that it adapts to their strengths and that they can take this information and do better to get a result. So we've been trying everything like video, on-field work, different messaging, in different vocabulary of how we try to push messages across, or a different schedule of when we train or when we do the video, or how we stagger that in, and whether one's more of a quick one or one maybe more of a long one. So it's a bunch of different ideas.
It seemed like the team pressed pretty high in the start of the Houston game. Did y'all kind of adjust that as the game goes on?
Yeah, I wasn't preferred. Sure. I would say we talked about moments, of course, like restarts, things like that. But I didn't want us to be so disjointed. I also don't want to take energy away when they feel the moment is right, the triggers are right, and they can jump. Like I want them to have that aggression and go. That will be something that over time, hopefully, we can be more dialed in on, and it's something we addressed this morning.
Rob, has there been an emphasis on just play around the box and getting guys more comfortable with the decision making? That's been something that it's on and off. It's been a little bit inconsistent. Have you focused on that as well?
Yeah, it would be an area. I wouldn't say like it's a overemphasized area. Like today, we did some stuff because it was the players we had, and I think it fits to help them individually get better, but then potentially in a game that we're going to come up against, it maybe it's an area that we can get better at. But I wouldn't say we overemphasized it versus other things. There's again, we kind of emphasized these are certain things we can get better at. That was one of them, but not any more than others.
And then I know you're moving past last week, but was it perhaps the word isn't a relief, but was it a relief to get through that week, get through that first game, and charge again, and now focus on these next 2 games that are going to be away from Atlanta? Was it nice to just kind of get through that?
No, I didn't look at it as relief. I honestly, I was really cautious in saying this to a lot of people when they asked how's it going. Like, I really enjoyed it. Like it's difficult. We're in a difficult moment. Like there's no hiding that. But at the end of the day, like it was really enjoyable. We went to work and I don't mean enjoy like we were laughing, joking around, and everyone's happy. No, we enjoyed like putting the work in to try to figure out how we can fix this or how we can put a result that we think we can be proud of and that everybody can get behind. So it wasn't relief because I was disappointed. So it's not there, but I think we tell the players like stay in the moment, stay in, trust in your process, and we can't deviate from that either and say like, oh yeah, well, we got it, but we're gonna keep moving on. No, we kind of have to have the same message. So no relief, but I'm grateful for the opportunity and that we had a good week, but now it's like, hey, gotta go again.
What about the younger players? I mean, I know you're close to these guys, but so many players this year have been thrust into positions to play right away and to contribute, not just be a guy that comes off the bench. Talking about the messaging of the pros, but with the younger players, are they following through with what you're asking them to do, perhaps now that their roles might be a little bit more important?
Yeah, I think it's been really cool to see. Like these guys I think their mentality is different than maybe some of the other younger players I've worked with before, is that they don't see that they're maybe young. Mm-hmm. And that's great. Like look at Luke. Like you wouldn't have been able to tell he was young the other night, and I think that is a great thing. Like there was 3 teenagers on the field at one time, and that's what happened multiple times maybe in the last year. Whether we want that or that was the way it was built up, like these guys have stepped in and done a job. Now it's about making sure that maybe it's not a process like this, especially with any player, but also young players as they go. It's going to be up and down. So just making sure that they can stay consistent. The messaging hasn't changed because we want to push them to a level that they're a little bit uncomfortable, but at the same time that they're comfortable enough to make the mistakes and get better from making new mistakes, essentially.
Why do you think it is that Luke came on the field and didn't kind of present that kind of young, maybe hesitant or tentative player?
That's him. Like he's probably more comfortable in his own age group, or at times when he's been with the second team, he might show more of that personality, whether it's in training sessions or in certain games. But we see it a lot, and it's funny when you get into an older group, if you're that way, you're going to get put down pretty quickly, especially with some of the other personalities that we have in our locker room at times. Like they handle those personalities pretty quick. But he does it in a different way, because you'll watch him at the beginning of this year. There'll be times where he get kicked at training like bad, where you're like, ooh, that's a foul. And you watch how he reacts, and he doesn't say a thing. His legs bleeding or something like that, and he just hops right back into the training session. So I've seen it, and I think that you saw it the other night. He's done it, I would say, in most of his opportunities. So he didn't deviate from who he is. He was just effective, and that's the challenge now, is making sure that he can be effective any moment he steps on the pitch, whether it's from the bench or whether it's at the start of the game.
From a big picture standpoint, does it help in a way? And I know they go about it differently. That you're playing 2 teams in the same week that are pretty direct in the way that they approach the game.
I'm going to give you the line. Like I'm really just focused on DC. We'll deal with St. Louis when it comes, but I'll tell you what does help is that we've played them before, so we have the experience. As much as I had said, like I'll move past it. I'll be stupid not to think about the game and know that the players we played against. So that part helps for sure.
On these kinds of games, how important is it in what you've talked about in those artificial transition moments, those manufactured transition moments, winning the second ball in these moments?
Yeah, I mean, that'll be massive. I think they're big in every game. You look at, even with Houston, we talked about that because of how many numbers they typically put in the middle of the field. No matter which team ends up going direct or whatever, however the second ball happens, they have a lot of movement and a lot of people in the middle of the field. So even on clearances, we were talking about the height of a clearance is important because, one, it gives us time to get up, or we get to a certain area where the ball might drop. So it'll be no different. It'll be different opponents, so we'll maybe emphasize it a little bit different in where we pick those up or who is in those areas. But yeah, those moments are huge because when teams are a little bit unorganized, when you can either hurt them or be hurt.
On Thiago, how did he look today? Coming back from Argentina camp, a tough game at home, pretty fatigued at the end of that game. How do you manage his minutes if you're going to, and how do you just keep him involved with everything that's happening around him as well?
Yeah, I mean, he had a lot that went into the week before that when he wasn't with us, which is disappointing because, well, it's great for him personally. He's with the national team. I love that stuff. Him, Caleb, Noah was awesome. But then to bring him back in and making sure you're taking care of him and making sure he's rested to play in the game. And I mean, missed the other training sessions where we were talking about certain ideas. But he's a fantastic player that can adapt, and people adapt sometimes around him. You know, we'll take it game by game, like we said with some of the other guys, and how we manage him or how we push him or how we set up the team around him and others. And it would be no different than others, right? But his schedule is a little different when you're talking about him. It would be how we can set the team up to be successful and that he has success in that. So we had good conversation about, you know, like obviously the travel back and how the camp went, and then just getting him to get quickly adapted back to the team and get back to winning ways.
Rob, I'm sure you've or the team's kind of gone through the dealing with the loss of Jaco, but since it was just announced yesterday, can you just tell it, like, do you have a message to the team after something like that happens when you lose a key player who's regularly in the starting lineup, or you know, individual talks with certain guys who are going to come in to replace him? Can you just kind of talk about your role when it comes to dealing with a significant player leaving the team?
Yeah, I mean, before I didn't have that role, did I? So it's I think the other time was we brought Louise in, so it was only you're bringing somebody into the environment, so it's different. So the messaging for me, the guys knew obviously, so you'd address it with the players, and like it was. I think, you know, you look at it, we all enjoyed Jaco. I was happy to work with him. He made me better as a coach in a lot of ways, and I think the relationships, to my knowledge, are really good. So they would have good memories with him, and this is the bit of business where, for me, it probably makes sense on both sides. Like he's going to an opportunity where he wants to go, and I think the club benefits in some ways, in what we get for him. So it's tough because it's part of your group, and obviously a fantastic player who scored goals. But you know, we have to move on, and that's no disrespect. We move on and we move forward with the players we've got, and I think everybody's taking it really well and professional, like they should, and no hard feelings either way, and we move forward.
Rob, you've now been in charge for a game and a few training sessions. What have you learned kind of about the team's depth at the moment? What might be missing? I imagine that's an emphasis now that, you know, you have international call-ups and some injuries.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think about what's missing. I just think about what we have here and how we can maximize what we have. No excuses. I don't have any excuses of what we have or what we don't have. Guys away, I'm super proud of the guys that are away. Like they're with their national teams playing in major tournaments. Like that's awesome. So I'm just thinking about the guys that are here and how we can maximize that. Not thinking about anybody that's essentially not. I think about those guys. I care about them. But the players that you're talking about, other players coming in, it's not my thought process right now.
And who are you looking to kind of step up in some of these players' absences? What's the message you give to them?
I mean, for me, I'm looking at all of them to step up. If you're talking about all of them to step up, all of us as staff to step up. It's a shared responsibility that I said at the beginning. Like we all have to do just a little bit better and do our jobs, but do them a little bit better. And I think that's been the messaging, and again, how we can set them up in those ways to be successful, how we as staff can get better in other ways, like why we bring a guy like Carl Robinson in to help us get better in other ways. So, you know, it's a shared responsibility in that sense.
Thank you, Rob.
Thanks,
Great.
Rob.
Good to see you all.
Yep.
Thanks.